everyone, and welcome to the Smart Women Savvy Money podcast series. We started doing these as webinars 7 years ago, so I'm very blessed and proud of the fact that we have been able to create some programs and platforms to help women create the lifestyle they desire and deserve. For many of you who've been on our webinars in the past, you know that we have a really big focus on things that will help you make your life easier, better, and today's topic is going to be amazing. Before we get started with that, I just want to give some little bit of a background on some upcoming events and also access to our site. Now, we have an all-woman team and we work with women. That's what we want to specialize in, not at the exclusion of men, but because women are underrepresented and overlooked, we want to make sure that we can provide you with the services, platforms that you need. We do host a number of events and blogs and videos. Not a lot of events this year, obviously, because of the pandemic, but there's lots of content. And having said that, we are sending out on a weekly basis our getting gear tips for the pandemic. We've hosted everything from companies that are hiring people to things that you can be doing at home because you're stuck in the quarantine mode, as well as our upcoming podcasts and videos. So today's talk, though, is going to be very, very timely. We have the tech diva who has been with us for a number of years, and she has been on a number of our webinars. When we talked last year, and I said, please, Zenobia, we need you on our calendar for this year. She said, yes. But who would have thought that here we are in June of 2020, that we would be in the midst of an awful updated change in our lifestyles, that now one of the biggest issues that we're having outside of the health-related issues is that we are getting slammed by scammers. So we want to have a talk today about how can you navigate around that. And our speaker today is Zenobia, who has been in the tech industry for decades. And I will let you talk about that, Zenobia. So her talk today is about strategies, things that you should know in order to be on par with protecting yourself, protecting your assets, protecting your benefits. So with that said, Zenobia, we'll turn it over to you.
Hi, Renee, and thank you so much for having me back. I love being able to share information and get it out of this head out to folks to help. So one of my big concerns has been about safety in our digital lives. And everybody knows 2 months ago, the switch was flipped so fast overnight, throwing more of you into my world in terms of having a digital lifestyle and how to navigate that. So on many levels. So because we have been in quarantine and with the pandemic, we've had to find other ways to do things that we took total advantage of and never thought would be any different. For instance, going to the grocery store, who knew that we would look to finding a way to have our groceries delivered and how to do that securely, and that brings in a whole thing. So today I'd love to be able to put some more tools in your toolbox to help you navigate the digital world that we now are so much thrown into. So here we go.
Absolutely. And this will probably be the new normal if you were not on board with being, working virtually, connecting with people virtually, being on top of this digital format now. You will have to be, because we are now going to be in that space. And Zoom is one of our bigger players as an example. So with that said, let's get started.
Okay, so so Renee, when she talked to me, she says, yeah, we get a lot of phone calls and scammers on the phones. How do we combat that? And so now I've taken that kind of to a whole nother level, because have you noticed that you don't get scam phone calls much anymore right now? I happen to notice that my phone is really silent nowadays. because a lot of them actually are quarantined. They're trying to figure it out also. But in the meantime, as I mentioned, there are all kinds of ways that we are now exposed on a digital level. And I want to give you some tools on how to manage through that. So I call it the hacker tsunami, because now we're more on our phones a lot, and we're doing a lot more on our phones. We're having to do a lot more emailing and connecting, and now everybody's doing a Zoom. And you probably heard on the news about how unsavory people were hacking into Zoom meetings. And there was a reason for that, because it was public, it was not tied down with a password. So here are some of your vulnerabilities. This isn't a total list. There's probably some things that I haven't included here, but these are some of the main ones that we're exposed to. Of course, now we're doing some people still have landlines, so of course we still get the telemarketer calls there as well. And now we're doing a lot more mobile stuff, and a lot of people who now have probably 90% of the world does not have a landline anymore. There are people that still do. So we're doing so much more on our mobile phones. And so of course the scammers are gonna, and the telemarketers are gonna be there too, because that mobile phone is now your only phone. So of course you're always giving that phone number out. And then we talked a lot before about emails and the phishing, and now ransomware is a lot more prevalent. And that's when your email or your account may be hacked, and unsavory people once again are wanting you to pay to unlock your computer or your emails for a fee. And so a lot more of that is starting to happen. And yeah, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then of course, when you're just surfing on the website, you may come across fake links that actually take you to unsavory websites. And again, some of the websites might not be secure or encrypted. So as you click through, you end up being vulnerable. And one that's very close to our homes, our Wi-Fi networks. We may not have a password on our Wi-Fi networks. And so again, unsavory people can drive through your neighborhood, look for a Wi-Fi network that does not have a lock on it, and be able to use software and tools to actually hack into your Wi-Fi network.
Wow.
Okay, so slam the scammer's toolbox. Okay, get your toolbox open. But I do have a caveat, is that these are very, very smart and shrewd criminals, people with criminal minds, or at least unsavory minds. Some of them might not be criminals, but they don't have the best intentions. And especially some of our young people, they will certainly try to test their skills at hacking. And so the end results are that your data is exposed. And most of these people, they make a living at it. There's a value on your data, and that value has a price on it. And so some of these people, they make very, very good livings based on how many times and who and the level of the data that they're hacking. That's their occupation. That's a job to them. So stopping them is impossible. It's finally reached the point where it's impossible. So even you have multinational companies that have full departments, and they're just trying to mitigate it. So to me, is we can at least not make it easy for them to have access to our data. So here are some empowerment tools to self-secure as best that we can with our mobile devices and our landlines or our voice over IP. You know, now when you don't have a copper landline, it's voice over IP. It's an internet-based phone system, whether the phone company tells you or not. It's a phone system over the internet. So internet-based will have you still prone to certain phishes. So my advice is to, when you get these phone calls, don't answer. That's one way. And just let it go to voicemail, or sometimes they don't even do voicemail because a lot of it is automated. It's not real people anyway. But if you do, and you get a real person on the phone, you can ask them for a phone number and say, oh, I'm too busy, let me call you back. What's your phone number? And they'll click off. Or, well, I need some more information. So what's your website so I can find out some more information, to click off. Or just ask them to remove you from their list. And a lot of times they'll end up clicking off as well. Or if you're, if you're a humorist, you can play along and create whatever game you need to create until they get frustrated and then they drop off. So that's one way. Another way. And then also nowadays on your mobile phone, if there's a phone number that comes in, you can actually block that number. And I would tell people, you know, we've lived in a world where we always answered the phone, or we always call people back to find out who it was. Well, today that is not a good idea because they'll be tracking your phone number and your response. So you can actually block it. And now I've even seen messages, I'm on an iPhone on AT&T, and not an endorsement of AT&T, by the way. But sometimes I'll get a message that says possibly a scam call. So now even the phone companies are starting to participate and try to mitigate some of the spam calls. Another recommendation I have is, if you have the option, don't give out your mobile number as the contact number every time you sign up on a website or for some service or whatever. It's a lot easier for mitigation if you use your email as a contact. And I'll talk about that some more also. But if you don't have to give your mobile number as the first point of contact, then that would mitigate some of the stuff that comes through on your mobile phone. Okay, so email, I know I probably sound like a broken record, but if it looks suspicious, it is, okay? If it looks suspicious, it is. Even if it has your best friend's email address and it looks like it's something, but it doesn't, the message doesn't look like something that your friend would ever say to you, it's suspicious. So don't reply to the email. Don't click on any of the links. Don't download any of the files, and always check to see who the sender is, because that's going to be the verification that it is phishing. Okay, it's not from your friend or whoever you may think it is. So how you do that is that you click on the from, and you can see who the actual email is, because sometimes, you know, you'll see like a slogan or something and not see the email right off. But if you click on that, then you'll actually see the email. And you can tell, although there's some really sophisticated emails out there that it may look like it's from Chase Bank or from the bank, but if there's extra extensions to it, or like something dot something at Chase, then, and you know that they're never going to ask you for certain information, then you can know that that's an email that you need to send to the junk mail and actually delete. Okay, another broken record for me is to use better passwords and also use unique passwords. Now, especially for those sites where you're prone to you have to give your credit card or social security number or driver's license. Use separate emails for each one of those. Try not to repeat on those, okay? And especially on anything having to do with your finances. And then again, I do recommend to take some time to use a password manager, because that's what you'll need to help manage all of these various emails that you're getting. Not emails, I'm sorry, the passwords that you have to do. I use one called Secure, which I like a lot because I'm able to categorize, put all the banking ones together. It's very secure. They want your business, so they're not going to run the risk of being hacked. So they use military grade, most of them use military grade encryption. So you want to look for, when you're searching for a password manager, one that uses at least 128 K encryption. The better is 256 K encryption with their encryption for their management. So you can get in touch with me and I can help you navigate through that. Another tool to use, I don't use it very often. I've used it a couple of times, but you can set up an alias email that will come back to your real email. So you don't have to use your real email. So if you're going on e-commerce sites and it's a new, you just have to have that really cute pair of shoes, but it's on some strange, bizarre kind of website where you want to buy it, then use an alias email so that they don't have your real email address, but it's attached to your real email address. And you'll get the email, all the communications there as well. Okay, so when you're surfing on the website, look for the lock up at the address bar where the URL is for the website, especially if you're doing purchases or it has anything to do with your personal data. So, and now I'm starting to see that websites will actually say not secure in red in the address bar. But that's what you want to be really sure about seeing if you're especially going to be looking at doing some kind of transaction. And then of course, just be mindful, because we're surfing around, clicking on everything all over the place. Just be kind of mindful of where you're clicking. Because there are times where you can click on a website address. It could be a bogus website address that will take you off to someplace else that you really don't want to be at. Of how you're surfing around. And then nowadays, yes, it's an extra couple of steps, but two-step verification is highly recommended. And what that is, especially for websites like your Google account, or if you have websites or your email is with GoDaddy or someplace like that, they're starting to require that you do two-step verification. And what that is it's a second verification, not just your password, but where they will send you a text message with a code or an email with a code, or they'll call you with a code. And you have to give that code and enter that code to be able to access whatever it is. So that's something that now, yeah, it's annoying, but that's something that you really, really need to pay attention to, especially for anything having to do with a financial transaction. Okay, my broken record again with emails. Oh, seems like that went, I went backwards, sorry. Okay, so now speaking of payments and shopping, again, if you can, and I can help you navigate that, it's usually with whoever hosts your emails. They should have something that says how you can set up an alias email for unknown shopping sites. Okay, so now we've got these payment apps, and I love them because even when I was going into the stores, I love whipping out my phone with my secure Apple Pay, because I didn't have to dig through the girl purse to find a credit card to use to scan my credit card. So, but now these are highly secure because they don't expose your real credit card account numbers and all the information on your credit card. So even if you end up, well, most of us probably won't end up going to a lot of stores or places that would take our, scan our card, or even in the banks even. So you don't have the exposure of showing all the information that's on your card, or someone looking over your shoulder to see you put in your PIN. PayPal, I like a lot of people, and at first, I understand the hesitancy. Now today it's very, very secure. And it's a great way to make a payment without, again, exposing your real credit card information. And with PayPal, you can actually choose which card you want to use. But the vendor or the merchant just never sees your real credit card number. Same thing with these new payment applications like Zelle, Cash App. Venmo. There's a lot others. I particularly, Venmo is fine. I'll use it for certain vendors that's all that they use. But I'm just not real keen on showing my name show up along with other people's names who have paid this particular vendor. So I tend to kind of stay with Zelle, and I'll do Cash App. And then again, we've got these other apps with the Apple Pay, the Google Pay, the Samsung Pay. Those are all very, very secure. And again, they don't expose your real credit card information. So just some general tips. Heed the announcements about hacks that have happened to companies that you're associated with. So sometimes, yeah, we're getting our news mostly on apps from the news or Yahoo News or Google News or whatever. So just kind of be on the lookout for where the hacks are happening. So for instance, a couple of years ago, there's a major hack with our with the credit card monitoring companies, like Experian. All three of them got hacked. Okay, so Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, they all got hacked. And I did a whole big piece about that. But just be on the lookout for different companies that are hacked so that you can do your own investigation about where the status of that hack is, because a lot of times the company doesn't get in touch with you because they don't want you to know until they have identified or better mitigated what the hack is going to what the hack has been doing. So just kind of keep your eye out and peeled for that. Also, now a lot of the credit card companies and even the banks will do credit monitoring for you. So if it's for free, of course, and it doesn't cost you anything, then it's a good idea now to at least, because they will let you know if there's any if there's anything to be concerned of. In fact, and I think it may be Credit Karma, I'm not sure, Experian, one of them lets me know where my email addresses showed up on the dark web. And so that was a sign for me for any website that I used that email on, I immediately went in and changed the password. So yeah, there were like 300 of them. Some of them I wasn't too concerned with, but the ones that had to do with banking and anything having to do with personal data or transactions, I immediately went in and changed the password. So that's where those are really good to at least now, especially with the credit cards, they're all offering that as a free service because they want to keep your business. Okay, so I mentioned about the drive-by Wi-Fi hacking. Yes, find out if you need some help. I can help you put a password on your Wi-Fi network. Okay, so that no one can actually just drive by and try and hack into your Wi-Fi, because then they can see everything that you're doing online and everybody else that's on your network, that's on using your Wi-Fi network. So that's something to lock down right away. If you're really, really serious into locking down your networks, then you can look into getting a virtual private network, which is kind of like a portal that encrypts and locks out only what locks out attempts to access your online presence, yet you get to go on everything fairly securely. I can go through that a little bit later. I'm actually investigating those because I will actually, especially if you travel around a lot with your laptop and your phone, you want to have a virtual private network so you don't have to use the free hotel Wi-Fi, which you don't want to do. They can tell you that it's encrypted and that it's private, but if they don't give you a password, it's not. So don't let them talk you into that otherwise. And then finally, backup. I can't stress that enough. especially because we're doing a lot of stuff on our phones. So you want to back up your phone. Now, if you're on an Android, it's automatically backed up. How you find out where the backup is, I'm still trying to figure that out. So if you ever need to reinstall or update your phone, actually Androids, they're really good about that. They'll do it automatically. So you don't have to worry too much there. But if you want to have easy access to like your pictures, your videos, some of your files, then do a separate backup to, like, especially on Android cards, get like a 16 gig or 32 gig SD card to put into your phone, and put all your pictures, your photos, your files that you want to have access to on that SD card, because you can always pop that out, drop that into a little SD card player, and drop it onto your laptop, and be able to have access to that a lot faster. And then of course there's cloud backup. So there's all kinds of ways to do cloud backup. Microsoft has their Azure, Amazon has AWS, Apple has iCloud, so you can do that. But I still, for certain things that I'm really touchy about, I will have a hard drive backup. And so actually on my MacBook Pro, I do occasional backups of my whole laptop too. I'm just a geek like that. I have a 4 terabyte hard drive that I back up my whole computer to, and my iPhone. And just so that I have a second backup. Redundancy to me is a big deal. So we can talk about that, and we can create a special strategy for your security as well as your backup. So slam the scammers and hashtag lock them out. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome.
And information about what I do, and here's also contact information.
Perfect, perfect.
Okay, so I'm stopping my share. Unless you want me to go back. Well, I'll stop my share.
So thank you, because I know when you did a similar talk a couple of years ago, I took a lot of notes, and I signed up for a password manager site, because we have passwords to so many websites. It's like, I can't remember that. So it has been so helpful. And now with us working remotely, today I'm at the office, but we've been working remotely from our homes. And so we are using a virtual private network, and because we need to protect, our content, because we're working with our clients from home.
You have a lot of client data there.
Yes, yeah. So it's definitely made a big difference. And so hopefully everyone, that is listening to this webinar, this podcast, will understand the importance now of protecting your life that way. And all of the things that Zenobia is sharing with us is pretty easy to do. It's just that you got to wrap your head around it and just remember that these are the steps that you have to go through. But that one that you just talked about too, if you're at home and you don't have a password to your Wi-Fi, that's wild. Somebody could be driving down the street and they can pick up the content, because neighborhoods share the same network for their Wi-Fi. And I learned that just recently. So this, this is a confirmation of it. We have a password for our Wi-Fi at home, but that's so important, because people try to figure out, well, how did they get my information?
Well, and now what a lot of the providers do is because they want to continue to make money on you. So it's almost like you cannot buy your own router anymore, and for what? And they make you rent it forever. But now they do have the password on the side or someplace on the actual router. So it's really easy. And now they've gone to passwords that are like words instead of all the strange encrypted kind of letters and numbers before. Now because it's been found out that if you can do a long string of letters of words and you string the words together, that's just as secure as doing a mix of letters and numbers. So now they actually have things like that you can kind of remember that are actually printed on your actual, on your router. So it makes it a lot easier. So now you have no excuse to not password your router.
All right. Well, thank you, my dear, because this is going to be so helpful for us, this phase that we're in right now. But I think this will be the new normal, is that we have to live in a life now that is more virtual, more digital based. And, you know, since everybody is going to be on these virtual platforms, we got to learn ways to slam our scammers. So thank you so much for all of your advice, my dear. And we will have you back next year.
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
Maybe something else.
All right.
Sure.
And please, for all of you, for next month, we're going to be talking about the third act, which we don't like to call it retirement. We like third act. But there's a number of things, just not financial related, but it's mental, psychological. What does that look like for you? So with that said, we will see you next month.